is up, Sports Wars community, geeks and gamers, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages? We are back with our Sports Wars podcast. I'm your host, Pat, a.k.a. the Mayor of Oakland. Yes, I'm still standing after a pretty gut-punching last-minute loss. But you know what? It's early in the season. Everyone is dealing with various realities now that we are out of the offseason and in real-life competition. And that's just the way it goes. But we got a decent amount to unpack. It's going to be a slightly more condensed episode as it's just a two-man show today. I'm being joined by my Atlanta cohort, my right-hand man. This isn't Roy. Who is this?
This is the Roy's alter ego this week. This is Ryan Fitzmagic with my sunglasses and my beard and my chest hair and my chains hanging out. I decided to step in because Mr. Fitzpatrick inspired me a little bit, and sometimes you got to keep it light. Sometimes you gotta show up looking like an '80s drug dealer. Sometimes that's just what you got to do.
Well, man, I wasn't quite expecting this development, but I can't blame you for being inspired because Ryan Fitzpatrick, he kind of let all of us know that he is a don, he is a boss, he's just the swag lord of the universe right now. Like,
are we talking about his play from the first two games, or are we just talking about the press conference after the game?
Honestly, man, all that shit. All of it.
He is definitely having a blast, and from the looks of it, from the various videos, the one I saw yesterday of him and one of his offensive line kind of beard tickling each other, and then from the press conference where he comes out there, and of course he's wearing his the track jacket and the chains and the chest hair, which he claimed was the only part of that outfit that actually belonged to him. And his shades, and Deshaun Jackson comes walking out like, where the hell are my clothes? And he, of course, Ryan Fitzpatrick starts laughing, and he's like, we just got two more questions. I got to give D-Jack back his clothes. So, and everybody is having a blast. And I mean, we know from experience, a team that's having a good time is a dangerous team.
Yes, absolutely.
Tampa is probably undisputedly the hottest team in the league right now. So
absolutely.
We'll just have to see what goes from there.
But yeah, to your point, we're going to jump right into it. Literally no one anticipated what we're seeing out of the central west coast of Florida. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been absolutely just on fire. And I don't think anyone from the media or even actual coaching staffs like opposing coordinators, play callers who are facing the Bucs, none of them anticipated this. And it kind of speaks to how a lot of people, myself included, bought into the potential hype and the potential of that roster. Last year, they had the whole Hard Knocks deal. Jameis had a decent season the year before. They went, they go and add an O.J. Howard, they add a Deshaun Jackson. People are thinking like, on paper, it's looking pretty solid. They go out and lay an egg. Well, now this roster, like you say, they're having fun. They're playing to their full potential. And when you have success, it motivates you to want to keep having success. A 27-21 win over the defending champions is nothing to snooze at. And, that 27-21 final score, it really wasn't as close as that indicates. Like, it was a 20-point lead up until, like, the fourth quarter. What do you make of what we're seeing out of Tampa?
Man, as I said before, they're having a blast. This is the team that, to be honest, as an Atlanta Falcons fan, and I know we got Saints fans in the group, we got Panthers fans in the group, this is the Tampa team that we were kind of scared of. There's talent everywhere, particularly on offense. And I think this probably just solidifies the fact that Winston's just not the guy for this job. If Fitzpatrick can come in, they look like a completely different team. Deshaun Jackson is doing exactly what he was signed to do. Fitzpatrick doesn't have a bigger arm than Winston. Fitzpatrick is not more talented than Winston. Fitzpatrick's more mature than Winston. He's getting guys involved. Mike Evans is looking good. Actually, like I said, Deshaun's looking good. OJ Howard, he's looking good. I mean, they could use some improvement. They could use some improvement on defense, but I mean, the week one they weren't playing a bunch of bitches. They were playing the Saints. The Saints scored. Yeah. I mean, that's a potent offense. And I mean, this is the defending Super Bowl champs. It's not like, I mean, Nick Foles was there. I mean, they're not really missing anybody. I mean, well, they're missing Alshon Jeffrey, which Eagles fans aren't going to panic yet because they're just like, okay, Wentz is coming. Wentz is coming, and we'll be good.
Right.
I've got to say, I do believe the Eagles have, or not just the Eagles, but Foles has severely hurt his trade value in the last, since preseason and these first 2 weeks of the season. There was talk after the Super Bowl that they could have gotten a first-round pick. I don't see that now.
No.
But the Bucs, man, I'm Falcons fan. I'm kind of scared. I mean, they put up 27 points against a team that the Falcons couldn't score against. I mean, we scored 10, 11 points. Yeah, we couldn't do anything with it. And Ryan Fitzpatrick goes out there with Deshaun and Mike Evans just starts slinging it down the field, and they're having a blast. If you haven't, please watch that press conference, that post-game press conference with Ryan Fitzpatrick. It is amazing. It should be all the NFL like memes for the rest of the year. Like that picture is glorious.
That's probably going to go down as the definitive image of this season. Like I don't know if I see anything topping that outside of the Browns hosting the Lombardi Trophy.
I mean, it is the best thing ever. Like, I mean, would you expect like the dude is from Harvard? Like, this is Harvard. This is soft-spoken, probably the whitest white dude. And he comes out there with his aviators and the 2 gold chains and the chest hair hanging out.
Just dripping.
And like just cutting up. That they had more laughs at that press conference in Tampa yesterday than they probably had all of last season.
Shit, maybe the last – I don't know, 4 or 5 years? Like
17 years?
Yeah, it's oh God, don't remind me. Yeah, man. Now granted, I understand that, you know, Foles is a very self-aware guy. He kind of was transparent with Peterson and the rest of the staff, like, I don't really want to be traded, because he's aware of what his spot is. Now, granted, yes, he stepped up in the moment and he had an all-time performance in the Super Bowl. He was there for a reason. I truly believe that. But, you know, like LaRock says, regression to the mean, you come back down to earth. And that Philly offense, you know, without Jeffrey, a run game post LeGarrette Blount that's not looking like they've really found their groove yet. I kind of expected more from Corey Clement at this point, but I think he's taken more time to really get acclimated to a larger role. Hanging up 27 points on a fully healthy Philly defense is no joke. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see where they go from this point. But Fitzpatrick is a dude who only a few years ago, he got the Jets this close to a playoff appearance.
I mean, how many more weeks before each game are we going to have to hear, okay, this is it. Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to come back to earth now. Don't get me wrong. I don't think this is going to be sustained. I think that I know the head coach in Tampa, Dirk Cutter, former offensive coordinator for the Falcons. The defense coordinator for Tampa is Mike Smith, former head coach of the Falcons. I know the way these two operate. As soon as Winston is cleared, they're going to start him regardless. Then they're going to leave Winston in. They're going to realize they fucked up, but they're going to leave Winston in maybe a week or 2 weeks too long, and they're going to lose the team, and then they're going to immediately try to shuffle Fitzpatrick back in, and then Fitzpatrick goes back to his old self and throws 5-6 picks in a game, and by then the season's lost.
Yeah, they're destined to they're almost destined to sabotage the chemistry and the momentum that they have going right now. I mean, the disappointment that I had in seeing how poorly Tampa performed last year is what really put it, on emphasis for me. Like, this Dirk Cutter guy is not the dude.
No. And honestly, in some instances, not all, in some instances, to me, chemistry is more important than talent. Right. I don't think you would find any smart person that could with a straight face tell you that Ryan Fitzpatrick is more talented than Jameis Winston. He's not.
No.
Fitzpatrick is inferior to Winston in just about everything other than leadership and, to me, just charisma, having fun.
Yeah.
We saw the cringy looks Winston got last year by eating the W. And that was supposed to be this moment. Fitzpatrick has already had his franchise quarterback moment of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Right.
It's already better than Winston's. And Winston's turned into a joke. Fitzpatrick said, "Fuck this. I'm going to take that joke and I'm going to live it. I'm going to breathe it. I'm going to taste it."
Yeah.
And now he's in on the joke. He steered the joke in his own direction. And I mean, dude, I love it. I love it.
If I tell you what, man, if they get another victory next week and he just really grabs that gold coin on the merry-go-round and just gets and captivates the locker room.
How do you take Winston out, or how do you take Fitzpatrick out if he wins next week? If they start the season 3-0, while everybody predicted them to start at 0-3, if Fitzpatrick starts the season 3-0, how do you put Winston with a straight
that 3-game differential? We don't know what ramifications that's going to have on seeding later on down the line.
Yeah, they already have a division win against the Saints. That's insane.
Oof, yeah, lots to digest in the coming weeks. But in any case, to move right along over to the AFC side of things. Wow. Jalen Ramsey has been talking his talk and talking his talk. And yesterday, he, among others, walked the walk. The Jaguars defeat New England at home 31-20. And the score really wasn't that close up until the closing moments. I'm sure there are some fans out there who are watching that, probably rooting against New England, who are starting to have some post-traumatic stress disorder at a certain points. But that Jacksonville defense, the front seven, the secondary, the linebackers, it wasn't going down. New England was held to 3 points in the first half. Their third down turnover rate was something anemic for their normal standards. I mean, Ramsey was all over the field. Gibson had the lion's share of dealing with Gronk off the line of scrimmage. Jack was all over the place. Telvin Smith. They all played spectacular, but let us not forget Blake Bortles was just as good. Threw for 4 touchdowns, 377 yards, and the one pick that he had really wasn't even because of an errant throw. It kind of just fell from the guy's hands, and Kyle Van Noy was opportunistic. He just happened to be right there. But Jacksonville backed up what they've been talking, and it looked like this is probably a game that they had been really putting an emphasis on and preparing for throughout the course of the offseason.
Oh no doubt. It definitely was. It definitely seemed like it was a game that they circled since their season ended against New England last year. As you said, man, I mean, it takes nothing for a guy to kind of talk shit in an off season. And to be able to turn around and kind of back that up, I mean, Jalen Ramsey did it. I mean, he's embraced this villain role outside of Jacksonville because everybody in Jacksonville loves it. Every now and then you get in my experience, you get the occasional fan of a team that, there were Cowboys fans that were like, man, I wish Owens would shut the hell up. or,
Right.
or there were Bengals fans who were like, man, I wish Chad Johnson would just shut the hell up. Jacksonville is not doing that with Jalen. They are embracing it. They are loving it. They're kind of taking on the personality of this defense, which is nice because, I mean, 10 years ago, they were they were legitimately talking about contracting a team and just get rid of Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I caught bits and pieces of the game yesterday. Shout out to Christian Yu in our Sports Wars group. The baby goat, Blake Bortles. He is – it shouldn't be ignored that he's had two very solid games against New England, the last two games. While nothing – in the first game, he wasn't spectacular. But the fact that he threw for 4 touchdowns when they were pretty much keying on him because no Leonard Fournette. Fournette didn't play because of an injured hamstring,
right?
Which fucked me up bad in fantasy football because they didn't announce that till halfway through the 1 o'clock games. So I had to scramble. But Bortles showed out. I mean, 4 touchdowns, 377 yards. He outdueled Tom Brady. So Bortles is slowly changing the narrative.
And you know that's.
I mean, what a year and a half ago, or not a year and a half ago, a year ago, that there was legit talk of, man, maybe they should go ahead and think about moving on. Even this past draft, like, man, let's draft Lamar Jackson, and he is slowly. I mean, he has done nothing spectacular. I mean, 4 touchdowns is pretty damn close to spectacular. But, I mean, he threw 377 yards. I mean, that still the catch of the year. I don't give a shit what happens. That wide receiver, I forget his name for Jacksonville.
Cole, I think. Last name is Cole, I believe.
Holy shit. That one-handed in stride, and it was amazing. I mean, he's thrown for 5. I mean, Bortles has thrown for 5 touchdowns. Obviously, 4 of them were yesterday. 2 interceptions. One of those was yesterday. I mean, who's the receiving core to really speak of? They lost Hearns and Robinson.
It's an upstart receiving core, but they're putting in work.
I mean, and Jacksonville's front office got clowned when they passed on Jackson and drafted that defensive tackle in the first round. They let Robinson go. They let Hearns go. They got clowned. Every wide receiver free agent, Des Bryant, Josh Gordon recently available. Every time a wide receiver's name came up and Jacksonville passed, they got clowned.
Yeah.
Now they look like they're happy with what they got. I mean, Yeldon filled in okay for Fournette yesterday, but we know Fournette's coming back. That's Fournette's job. So go Jacksonville.
Yeah. This game put me as, someone who I don't super pay attention to New England in the regular season. I don't ignore them by any means, but you mainly are watching them in the playoffs because they're always there. This game yesterday reminded me of 3 distinct times. One, to see Bortles just slice and dice their defense like that, of course, reminded me of Foles in the Super Bowl. To see the defense just have their number play after play, down after down, quarter after quarter, reminded me of Denver in the AFC Championship a few years ago. And the third instance isn't to a particular game, but it's more of a dynamic. An organization where Tom Coughlin is involved, just calmly, quietly having their number. And looking at, certain other things taking place within the AFC, you can make an argument that, one, the gap between New England and the rest of the AFC, it's still there. All right, don't come at me with accusations of a crazy hot take. It's still there, but when you look at New England's defense and the talent overall outside of a Brady and a Gronk and a newly acquired Josh Gordon, which we're going to talk about next, you could make an argument that the gap is slowly starting to close.
Oh no, definitely.
Outside of 12 and 87, it hasn't been looking too hot their last few games. The first two of the season in the Super Bowl,
yeah,
I don't know, man.
The Rock brought up a very interesting stat when we were talking about this earlier. I forget the exact number. I believe it was 6-5. Tom Brady is 6-5 in the state of Florida when the temperature is above 90, which means basically, or he's 6-5 in the state of Florida in the month of September, which is crazy. Why the fuck would the Dolphins ever schedule a home game against the Patriots outside of September? But I mean, there is something about it. Like if I was a dome stadium or dome team, and I hosted the Patriots in the fucking playoffs, I would crank the heat up. I don't give a shit. I would. Yeah, let's start a fire.
Just go and buy a ton of humidifiers and just line them up on the sideline and turn them shits on.
One of my favorite stories from yesterday's game was Jacksonville. The team managers, the sideline guys, they made sure to hang up a thermostat on the New England sideline just so they could see just how hot it was. And they said the New England coaches took it down. They were they were like, no, we don't need to see that shit. But yeah, it was 90 plus degrees at game time. So I
read somewhere that at kickoff, the heat index, which I think is some sort of like collaboration between what the heat, the humidity, the wind, all the contributing factors. The total heat index.
I'm in Georgia. Let me explain. Yeah. So to explain the heat index, okay. Are y'all aware? I don't know. You're in Oakland, man. It's beautiful in California. You know, y'all have wind chill out there.
In the wintertime, yes.
Okay, all right. Basically, heat index is the pendulum swinging the other way. It is a combination of the actual temperature and the humidity. Basically, wind chill is the temperature is this, but this is what it feels like. That's what the heat index is. Heat index is it's 92 degrees out here, but with the 98% humidity, fuck you, and swamp ass is a real thing.
Yeah,
and it's 92 degrees, 98% humidity, so you're looking at 105, 106.
Okay,
and
it was 107 at kickoff.
The air and I've been to Jacksonville. Jacksonville is essentially South Georgia.
Oh yeah, no, my mom lives outside of Jacksonville.
The air feels like fucking hot soup. Like it's sticky. It's
sweltering.
LaRock went to that game. He's just like, you can tell he's a West Florida guy from the Pensacola area because they got that cool ocean breeze. Jacksonville is fucking swamp and mosquitoes. That's all it is. And that's pretty much most of Georgia. I mean, it's fucking terrible. I'll never personally go back to Jacksonville because of that. Jacksonville humidity makes Georgia weather seem like fucking breezy. It's great in Georgia compared to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, you know that I ventured to New York City for the first time this summer, and I was getting off the plane at LaGuardia expecting to just be knocked over the face with it, right? The humidity up in NYC is nothing compared to Jacksonville or Tampa or Florida in general, for that matter. I was shocked.
I've been to I went to Jacksonville, and I was actually down there for a month for business reasons. Nothing illicit. I was down there for business reasons, and for a month. And once that month was over, I swore I would never go back to Florida because fuck Jacksonville. And then later on, a couple of years later, I had the opportunity to go to Tampa and the Clearwater area. Absolutely love Tampa. Tampa is beautiful. That Gulf is amazing. Never been to Panhandle. I've been to Orlando. The theme park thing is just not for me. But I love Tampa. It's a completely different feel in Tampa than Jacksonville.
Right.
Jacksonville is just I can't imagine trying to do any kind of physical activity. Like I don't understand how they build houses and shit down there. I don't see it.
It's it's a trial, man, and it definitely seemed to have an effect on them amongst other things. I mean, we all know when things aren't going according to script, Brady can sometimes get animated. He was over there turning up,
He
and
didn't let us down yesterday.
Yeah, McDaniels was in the middle of a huddle of all those offensive guy, and he was blowing a gasket too. So it's I feel bad for Detroit. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah, especially with the new weapon that New England just added.
Yes,
just hours ago.
As of today, Josh Gordon, formerly of the Cleveland Browns, is now going to be a Patriot. He was let go from the Browns after a hamstring injury and a somewhat tumultuous history. He's a guy who a lot of fans, a lot of football fans who claim to love the game so much, they throw me off when they show and express nothing but contempt for the actual players. And I don't really get it. Like, these are the guys who are providing all this entertainment for you that you claim to love so much. But in situations like this, where the young man's, personal life and well-being are kind of in question, and people just have all the saltiness like that, I never really got that. But, in any case, he's going to be going to New England. And I think I speak for a lot of people in the sense that we're not so much worried about what team he plays for as wanting him to deal with his issues and not have it be taboo or have it be something that's dismissed as if it's not important. Then there's another group who think that he's just some dummy who can't stop smoking weed. Like, no, the mental health aspect and the addiction aspect, like it's a real issue. So, it'll be interesting to see how this transition plays into, him trying to get himself straight and healthy.
I mean, I'm actually going to take the glasses off on this one just to be serious for a second about Josh Gordon and his history. It's not it's no secret. He's been troubled maybe putting it lightly. He hasn't played a full season in the NFL. He never has. The most games he's played in a year was 14, and he was suspended for two of those games that year. That also happened to be the year he led the league in receptions or receiving yards. So we know he's talented. Right. I won't presume to know why he uses weed and alcohol. In my experience, someone who has that kind of typically marijuana is not, without getting preachy, typically marijuana is something that's not a physical dependence. It's more of a mental dependence, but a lot of people use it to self-medicate.
Right.
As the times have, as the understanding of marijuana and cannabis and THC has all kind of progressed, so as the studies of it. And we've learned a lot more in the last 10, 15, 20 years as more states legalize it and allow more research to be done, and the medicinal applications of it are just growing. I mean, now that you've got Bleacher Report actually had a special, they kind of did it in a tongue-in-cheek, kind of joking way. That they announced it in a kind of a tongue-in-cheek joking way, but they actually did it really well. I encourage anybody who has a chance, watch the Bleacher Report. They called it the 420 special. They actually interviewed NFL players, NBA players, and they asked the NFL players how they deal with it and how do they get around the NFL's drug policy. And they had a very lengthy conversation about it, and it was very informative. I enjoyed watching it.
Right.
But to Josh Gordon, I sincerely hope that he gets any issues that he has worked out. Maybe a change of scenery is exactly what he needs. I mean, somebody is going to inevitably make the joke that, the reason he was smoking weed is because he was depressed, and he was depressed because he was playing in Cleveland. But that's the obvious joke to make, and to me, it's just unoriginal. But I hope he does well. I hope that he gets access to the type of, possibly the type of mental health that he needs. That someone that can help him out and stop him from having to self-medicate. Man, the mental health is so stigmatized, not just throughout the world, but I mean throughout this country. I mean, football players have to be these big tough guys, and I mean,
yeah,
we've just now started to see guys like DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Love in the NBA who have come out and kind of talked about their anxiety and stuff like that, stuff that marijuana helps. Obviously, Ricky Williams was a punchline for a while. People just when they hear someone that's used marijuana, they immediately turn into, oh, he's a dope head or pothead, or he's just always going to be.
He has the munchies. He has all that
and
cliche.
they don't look further than that it helps. It helps with the anxiety and stuff like that, man. And like I said, I'm not advocating. I'm not against. I'm not for. As it stands in my state currently, Georgia, it's illegal.
Right.
But the so far the studies that have happened shouldn't be ignored. It is something that should continue to be pursued. In Josh Gordon's case, it's kind of hard to ignore. The kids had problems with drug tests going all the way back to Baylor, and I just think that if he had the chance, if someone actually sat down and had the talk with him, like, hey man, this does not strike me as like pothead behavior. This is it's a deeper issue, and I hope that he gets better and he gets the right attention, and whether that happens in Boston or anywhere in Massachusetts, I don't know. I don't know if Belichick is down with that kind of thing. Maybe Brady hooks him up with a guy. I don't know. Maybe those avocado smoothies will fucking cure everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, it's definitely still a question mark. Just kind of reiterate the point, I think a good amount of people are just a little bit more understanding of this situation now than it may have been over the last few years. And we just have to, hope that it's the start of some sort of solution for them. But in any case, with week 2 in the books, kind of like we were saying before we started recording, I think a lot of fan bases out there need to just, just take a deep breath, y'all. All right. It's September. We've seen a lot of very sloppy play on both sides of the ball.
None sloppier than Pittsburgh and New Orleans.
Oh yeah. It seems like a lot of guys still need to get their heads in the playbook. They still need to get some reps in. And I expect everything to tighten up and normal out over the course of the next few weeks. And chief among them in terms of upcoming matchups, of course, we have the perennial NFC South matchup, the Saints against the Falcons. Now, the Saints are coming off of a knockdown, drag-out victory against the Cleveland Browns. The Falcons are coming off of a win over Carolina. Now, I got to give a quick shout-out to Patrol God Jimmy and to my fantasy quarterback, Cam Newton, because Cam was the victim of some drops. He took a real nasty helmet-to-helmet hit. Cam didn't play bad by any means, but it wasn't enough to deal with a Falcons team that was focused on getting their offense back into a high gear after that season opener. The Saints, obviously, they lost to the Buccaneers in completely out of nowhere fashion without us going on a whole Bucs tangent again. And they just barely won against the Browns, and both of those games were at home. How do we feel about Saints Falcons?
Saints better get their shit together. They did not look good. They didn't look good in week 1. I mean, yeah, they scored 40 points, but that was after Ryan Fitzpatrick had put up 48. Week 2 against the Browns, y'all don't know how close y'all came to getting a Roy and Jimmy team up in the group. If Cleveland was able to slam that door on the Saints, and get their first win since December 24th, 2016. If they would have been able to get their first win against New Orleans at New Orleans, me and Jimmy team up and bash the Saints for the rest of the year, regardless of the outcome of the Saints of the Falcons-Panthers game that also took place.
Yeah.
The Saints offense didn't look good. I'm actually really curious to see what happens once Ingram gets back. This is kind of showing that Ingram may be the lost puzzle piece.
Right.
They are one-dimensional. I mean, shout out to Michael Thomas of the Saints, who through the first 2 games of the year has more receptions than any other player in the history of the NFL in the first 2 games of the season. Shout out to him. That one is he's had a really good two games, even though they haven't gone the way the Saints would have liked. I'm sure the Saints were hoping for a bounce back, which is what I expected. After getting beat by the Bucs, I thought for sure the Saints were going to go out and beat the absolute shit out of the Browns.
Right.
That way, if the Browns kicker doesn't whiff on 11 total points, the Browns win. They got to answer quick. They got to get this shit together quick, or the Teddy Bridgewater era is going to start very soon. Now to the Panthers, shout out to Jimmy as well. That loss on Sunday was not Cam's fault. It was not Cam's fault at all. He played great. He actually got more passing yards than Matt Ryan. He was more accurate than Matt Ryan on Sunday. He suffered from a bad run defense and dropped passes. Before that game, the Panthers had not allowed a 100-yard rusher in 21 straight games. Tevin Coleman, our backup running back, got 100 yards. He was at 100 yards by the third quarter.
Wow.
There was nothing. Also, Matt Ryan, 2 rushing touchdowns. Matt Ryan has never gotten more than 2 rushing touchdowns in a season, and he got him in the game against Carolina.
In a game.
Yes. The little helicopter move he did to get into the end zone in the second half. I heard one of the announcers mention something about John Elway. I was like, please, no, don't. We're not comparing a Week 2 game to a Super Bowl. Let's not do that.
No.
But the Carolina-Atlanta games, I always love them. They're nerve-wracking as shit, but I always love them. And it's the same thing as the Carolina-New Orleans games. This rivalry game between Atlanta and New Orleans has gone on for 50-plus years. Since they both became franchises, we were the two of the southernmost teams in the NFC. We've been rivals the entire time. The games are always good. I believe this matchup is in New Orleans, if I'm correct. Let me see. I just want to be sure here.
I'll take a look too. Or actually, I think no, they're at your place.
It's in Atlanta. So yes. I mean, we split the season series last year. Same thing. They won. Mm-hmm. No, I believe we won at their house, and then they won at our house last year. There was one of them was a Thursday night game,
right?
And then we lost to them on like Christmas Eve. We split the season series with Carolina last year. This is just how this division goes, man. We beat up on each other.
It's just stacked.
Yeah, we'll trade games. We'll win one at home. They'll win one at home. You just try to get out of it. Obviously, you want to get out of it with a win because you get the bragging rights. Of course, we'll see the Saints fans and they're bringing out their fucking Super Bowl rings in their trophy case.
Yeah.
If they lose, if they win, then they'll take a deep breath and be behind the Bucks in the NFC South. So, I'm rooting for the Falcons. I think we turned it around a little bit against the Panthers last week, and the Saints haven't. They're still struggling. So,
some of the Saint fans might be upset with me, but going off what I have seen these first 2 weeks, particularly in the Saints secondary, I think this could potentially be a game where Atlanta looks like they're really in their prior form, because Marshawn Lattimore was a real standout at corner last year, and he's been getting toasted these first 2 weeks. I don't know if it's an issue of maybe them trying to throw a different scheme out there or what the situation is, but just the reactionary play, being near the ball, letting receivers get vertical on them, like it just hasn't been happening for that Saints secondary. And I think the Falcons are kind of in, like we were saying after week 1, Sark needs to start having very tangible results and trading 3s for 6s. Like he needs touchdowns. And what we saw in that last game, it reflected it. So I have a hard time seeing the Saints pull this one out if the secondary continues to be what it is.
What's crazy to me, something that occurred to me while watching this Falcons-Panthers game was the Falcons seemed to be at their best when they weren't thinking about it. They were just going. It was right. the 2-minute drill. There was no overthinking. And don't get me wrong, that's on Matt Ryan and Sark. Because Matt Ryan has a tendency to overthink it. And to me, I think that's part of the reason that interception that was thrown incredibly short to Julio in week 1, that they have a tendency to overthink it.
Right.
Bring it back to basics. Let the guys do what they do. I mean, you have 2 of the best receivers in Alabama history. You have Sanu, who is a very, very good number 2 receiver, probably the second best number 2 receiver in the league. I'm gonna give that to Juju. I think Juju, mainly because he's fucking crushing it for my fantasy football team this year.
Right.
I think Sanu is very solid. He actually had a really underrated block in that game against the Panthers. He sprung a guy for I won't say it was Coleman or Ridley. Yeah, no, it was Ridley. Sprung him for a really long pass or yards after catch. Mm-hmm. I just think if Sark could stop overthinking it and trying to do too much, this offense could get scary again. That we went from the super complicated blocking schemes and playing in space that Shanahan had. Sark came in last year and tried to replicate it, but doesn't have anywhere near the offensive mind that Shanahan's got. And then week 1, we tried to do it again. And week 2, I mean, we simplified the shit out of it. And then it got really good going into the 2-minute drill where you don't have time to go, okay, go here, you go here. I mean, fuck all that.
Yeah.
And it looked a lot better.
Yeah, no, I feel it. I never completely underestimate or count out Breeze because we've watched him just systematically torch people for years and years now. But I feel like New Orleans is having a period where it's taking them a longer time to gel. And I think Atlanta is they have more of a sense of urgency as of right now. So, I'm sure it's going to be another high octane game. It might be, a nerve wracker for you guys, but yeah, I don't think quite as much as prior instances. And then moving to an AFC South matchup, and you actually have a little bit of a news update for us. The dominant Jaguars are taking on the Titans, but the Titans are kind of in a tense situation right now. Blaine Gabbert started yesterday and was able to lead them to a victory over the Texans. But what's the situation with Mariota as of right now?
The report I'm hearing out of Tennessee is that Mariota has nerve damage in his right elbow. Now, that may not seem too significant. During warm-ups yesterday, that's when the decision was made for Mariota not to start, that it was going to be Gabbert.
Right.
The main reason being Mariota can't grip the football. He can't hold on to it. This should be even more worrisome for Titans fans because this is the exact injury that Denard Robinson had. Denard Robinson of the final NCAA football video game fame. He was the cover boy for that. Former quarterback at Michigan, was drafted to the Jaguars. The Jaguars decided to make him kind of a Cordell Stewart, Hines Ward kind of slash type player.
Right.
He played running back. He played wide receiver. They draw up some trick plays and have him throw the football. He never really played quarterback too much, but his career was cut short because of this exact same injury. He couldn't grip the football anymore. You can't grip the football. You can't hold on to the football. And as a quarterback on your throwing arm, this is exactly what you need. This should scare Titans fans to fucking death. Another quarterback that you drafted extremely high with an injury, with a career possibly cut short due to injury, Jake Locker. I think Vince Young's was more mental, but still, I'm not going to turn my nose up at a mental thing with that prevents you from playing a your full talent. So I mean, Mariota, Jake Locker, Vince Young. Now it's getting tough. Hopefully he's able to recover from it, but from what I hear for right now, Mariota's day to day.
Yeah, I mean, all fandom and biases aside, I think the vast majority of people would hope and pray that it's not as dire a situation as what you described, because this was going to be our first opportunity to see Mariota kind of take the next step and hit his stride as a young quarterback. He was going to have an offense that was was calling plays from a, post-World War II era, because the stuff they've been dialing up there the last few years.
Might as well have been running the fucking wishbone.
I mean, the kid has real talent, but let's be honest, that playoff victory over Kansas City was more indicative of Kansas City with Alex Smith at the helm. They have a really distinct ceiling. And I think, judging from this start from Mahomes, we now see why they shipped Alex elsewhere. And then, they proceed to go on to New England, and the glaring discrepancy in offensive styles becomes clear instantly. Like, oh shit, these guys are not ready for the big moment yet.
Yeah.
So whether it's 6 weeks down the line, a year down the line, whatever the case, I mean, maybe you just kind of, I won't say shelve the season, because obviously from an integrity standpoint, from a pride standpoint, you're going to go out there and want to compete no matter what. But I mean, let's be honest. If you have Blaine Gabbert at the helm, with the Jaguars being who they are, with Andrew Luck coming back, trying to string something together in Indianapolis, like Vrabel and those guys, they have to be realistic and know that they're not really going to do much of anything this year. So hell, hopefully Mariota gets healthy, he's ready to go fully next year, if not later this year. You get some decent draft picks and you put yourself in a position to be able to compete with the Jacksonvilles and the Houstons of the world.
I just don't see how in good conscience you could throw Mariota out there next week against the Jaguars.
No.
I mean, he's mobile, sure. But if they know he's got a weak elbow and can barely grip the ball, those boys are going to be going after that arm. Not necessarily the arm. They're going to go after that ball that they know can barely hold that the arm that could barely hold that ball. So Gabbert's got to start. Use these 2 weeks to reevaluate Mariota, see where he's at, and just go from there. Like the only downside is the Titans only have 2 quarterbacks on the roster, Gabbert and Mariota.
Yeah.
So unless they sign somebody, I hear Paxton Lynch is looking for a job. He's went to college at Memphis. Makes sense.
Yeah, I could. That actually would be, I think, a pretty smart pickup, just for the sake of having somebody else on the depth chart. I mean, obviously, Lynch is not a world beater, but I mean, like we were saying earlier with regard, yeah. But I mean, hey, like we were saying earlier with Gordon, sometimes that change in scenery is just what the doctor ordered. So I mean, if they end up having him close out the last 3 games in December, and
Yeah,
maybe he looks,
he's a legend there in Memphis. I mean, Memphis ain't that far from Nashville. I mean,
yeah,
he's a legend in Memphis. He played his college ball down there. I mean, they could, they definitely could embrace him. And maybe the familiarity down there in Tennessee would, could definitely help him turn the corner and right that ship.
right. Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to watch it all play out. I think the AFC South is stacking up to be a lot more compelling than people probably realize it, and it's going to smack them in the face as the season plays out. But in any case, that does wrap up our primary set of topics. Before we get out of here, let's we got to have the Fitzmagic version of Roy's shitty shoutouts. We have to.
Oh yes. Here, let me straighten it up real quick so you can see my the little taco meat and the chains we got going on. This week's shitty shoutouts is I want to give a shout out to Carolina receivers. Thank God y'all dropped all them damn passes. We didn't have Deion Jones. We didn't have Keanu Neal. Y'all fuck Cam over. And I'm not a Cam defender. Cam had a hell of a game.
By any means.
I'm not a Cam defender. Please visit our Sports Wars page. Watch all the shit I give Cam. And it's not personal shots. The dude has been a rival of my team since he signed his scholarship at Florida and then left and then went to Auburn and then got drafted by Carolina. It is not personal. Yeah. I don't hate the dude as a man. He's my team's rival. And I will do everything I can to knock him down a peg because I know the dude is supremely talented. Right. With that said, thank you, Carolina wide receivers. I also want to give a special shitty shout out to Atlanta Falcons' own safety. I believe it's Desmond Kazee.
Right.
What the fuck were you thinking? Like, why take that shot at Cam's head? I, as a Falcons fan, Carolina fans, I want y'all to know I'm not defending that bullshit. If dude gets suspended for the next game, I fucking hope he does. He deserved to get tossed. That was the dumbest shit I'd ever seen. You will never see me defend some bullshit like that. I've actually come to Cam's defense in certain points that I do believe he takes some really unnecessary shots every now and then. This shit on Sunday was an unnecessary shot. Again, not a Falcons fan, or not a Cam fan. That shit was unnecessary. I'm a fan of good, violent football, but clean football. I don't want I don't want nobody just taking shots at a quarterback's head, especially in the middle of a fucking slide. That was dumb as shit. So KZ, I hope you're suspended. I hope they fucking find you more in your game check. That is bullshit.
It's
stupid ass lapses in judgment like that.
That was like a late 90s hit, and that shit just doesn't fly. As for myself, I want to give a shout out to all the other genuine, lifelong, even in the face of a pending relocation, members of the nation. Because you guys, like me, you're not surprised by what we're seeing because you're objective and you're realistic. And you're not panicking and emotional because, again, you have realistic expectations. You know what to expect out of this product. You're not jumping shit.
I'm getting kind of emotional for y'all. I'm like, please don't trade Derek Carr.
We got a lot of people, a lot of fringe people who came along in 2016. Obviously, last year went the way it did, and this year starting off not good. But just everyone, like I say, take a deep breath. That's number one. Secondly, I want to give a special shout out to the Minnesota Vikings defense. Minnesota is in a freeway argument with the Rams and the Jaguars for being the best defense, hands down, in the league. Like, it's those three. Yet the Jaguars dominated their opponent. The Rams absolutely slaughtered their opponent. Minnesota gave up 29 points to Aaron Rodgers and a bunch of guys that they found in the phone book. How many receivers, starting guys in Green Bay, start with Atlanta or Pittsburgh? Or hell, from what I've seen, I might even throw like a Baltimore in there. You're an elite, premier, Super Bowl ready defense, and you cough up 29. And then the game ends in a tie, and you only get me 2 points.
They gave up 29 points. 29 points to a one-legged Aaron Rodgers.
Y'all not doing Prince a solid right now. Y'all got to get that shit together for the purple one. And that's all we got for y'all this week. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, tell all your friends, tell people who like sports, tell people who don't like sports, because we're a bunch of charming, entertaining motherfuckers. And we will catch you guys in our Sports Wars Facebook community. That's all we got for you this week. Peace.
Yeah, take it easy. Don't forget, #Ryan Fitzpatrick.